Ladies and gentlemen, we ask that you pay attention for a few minutes to watch the following security video. The object of this video is to organize a possible evacuation in case of an emergency. The evacuation teams of the Palacio Municipal will act accordingly to control any type of emergency that could occur. The evacuation order will be received through the loudspeakers. The access to the auditorium is done through the main hall of the building. The front doors will be open for the access and exit of all guests at the event. In case of an emergency, all the glass doors in the main hall will be opened. Likewise, all the front doors of the auditorium, on the sides of the building marked as emergency exits, the doors on the sides of the first row of seats, the marble staircase exit, the complementary areas, and the emergency exit stairs that end at the platform will also be opened. Security staff will be in the center of the auditorium and at the front of the stage guiding guests in order to organize the exit. Once the order has been given, stay calm. Follow at all times the instructions given by the emergency team staff. They will be identified by wearing a reflective vest. Do not return to gather personal objects. Walk at a fast pace without running. Do not use the elevators. After exiting the building, if you notice the absence of a companion, inform the building personnel and follow their instructions. We inform you of the existence of medical assistance at your disposal in case of it being required. Don't hesitate to contact the security staff. In case of an evacuation, go to one of the following 3 meeting points. 1. Avenida Capital de España and Via de Dublin. 2. Calle Ribera del Sena and Glorieta de Su Alteza Real Don Juan de Borbón. 3. Calle Ribera del Sena and Calle Strasburgo. Thank you very much for your attention. We kindly request that you keep your mobile phones off or muted. Welcome to a unique experience. An event where leaders of open and disaggregated network solutions and the wider telecoms industry gather to share and discuss recipes for success. Welcome to Fyuz. Communications. Gastronomy. Networking. Connectivity. Entertainment. Innovation. Are you ready to taste the future of connectivity? Today's menu has been cooked by Meta. A Meta pleasure for our palate. Don't forget to try a bite to eat at the Fyuz Street Market. Starters to be served in 3, 2, 1. Bon appetit!
All right. Good morning. Buenos días. Bienvenidos and welcome to Fyuz Day 3. Some housekeeping stuff first. For those who are new to the venue today, remember to locate the emergency exits. This is obviously a main stage. You have the on the sides of the building the breakout rooms and also meeting rooms. Make sure you locate them, but we have staff all around to guide you. We have also the expo floor on the floor number 3, where you are going to find the food street market and also the expos and demos from suppliers and partners. Let's do a quick recap of day 1 and 2. I think they were exciting. We talked about Open RAN, about open and disaggregated networks. We had chefs with 3 Michelin stars. We have one today as well that has 6 Michelin stars by himself. It was amazing, but talking to some of you during these 2 days, I came to realize that we are pretty close to the objective we had when we started thinking about this event. We wanted to create an event very different from a traditional telecommunications event. There are plenty of events out there where people has to go to. I think Fyuz is probably the first event in this industry where people wants to be. So we are getting there. Today we're going to talk about the metaverse, but first I want to introduce myself. I'm Diego Marí. I have the great opportunity and the great honor of working with a fantastic set of individuals at Metaverse Connectivity, and I'm going to be your host for the day. Some reminders, again, breakout rooms on the sides of the building. Make sure you locate them. You have the Fyuz app with the maps and all that stuff. We have these sessions recorded and available, but the breakout rooms are not going to be recorded. So if you don't want to miss that amazing content, make sure you show up there. We have a Wi-Fi, obviously. Fyuz, the network name, and Fyuz22 is the password. We consider 1, 2, 3, 4, but wasn't that fancy, so we came up with Fyuz22. Today is day 3. We are going to talk about metaverse and connectivity. Powered by Meta, we are more than happy to welcome you all here today. I want to thank our sponsors. Without them, all this wouldn't be possible. We wouldn't be here. I had the opportunity over the past few years to work with the majority of these companies. Make sure you visit their booths, you set up meetings with them. They are here on a mission, which is essentially selling things or promoting things, so make sure you make that journey way easier for them. We have a hashtag, Fyuz22. Make sure you use it when you post stuff on Twitter, LinkedIn, or whatever social media you choose. And make sure that you take a lot of pictures about the food, about the event, the sessions, and so on. We'll make sure that they get as much visibility as possible. This is our menu for the day. We have amazing speakers, we have amazing sessions. We're going to discuss about the key topics that everybody has in mind when we talk about the metaverse and when we talk about connectivity. So stay tuned. Our session on main stage today closes at 12, and we'll be back at 2:30 sharp. Make sure you're here. And but I'm sure you guys didn't came all the way here to hear me talk. So I'm going to start introducing the first session of the day. But before I do that, I want to ask for a big round of applause for the team that is behind the scenes, the staff that makes this thing possible. They have done an amazing job. So thanks to the staff, thanks to the production team. They are amazing. So as I said, let's start with the first session. We were having a chat with Quique da Costa, the chef that was with us yesterday. And he explained us that when he tries to create something new, or a new menu or a new dish, the first thing he does is he draws it on a paper or on a tablet. And then he starts cooking what he draws. So I think today we're going to try to draw what the metaverse and the connectivity for the metaverse is going to look like. And for that, we have our first session called New Menus and New Experiences. I'm very honored to welcome on stage Irene Cano, Directora General for Iberia at Meta. Irene, welcome.
Buenos días a todos, ¿cómo estáis? Es un honor para mí presentar esta primera sesión que nos trae la fusión entre los dos mundos protagonistas de este evento, que son la tecnología y la gastronomía, porque al igual que los grandes líderes tecnológicos que estáis aquí hoy sentados, los grandes chefs también requieren de esa capacidad de innovación y de esa visión que les permita crear continuamente experiencias y menús para que sus clientes disfruten de esas situaciones inmersivas totalmente disruptivas y bonitas en los días en los que van a sus restaurantes. Por su parte, el metaverso, que es uno de los temas que nos trae hoy aquí, también nos presenta una visión de futuro que a través de la tecnología nos va a ayudar a desafiar y a trascender los espacios físicos y a eliminar las distancias, haciendo que disfrutemos de experiencias cada vez más diferentes, cada vez más únicas y cada vez más disruptivas. Eso es lo que vamos a intentar explorar hoy aquí, entender las oportunidades, los retos y las implicaciones de ambos mundos a través de las especificidades que vamos a ir discutiendo. Si habéis venido hasta aquí con la idea de un festín en mente, permitirme que os presente el menú y para eso vamos a contar con un chef excepcional que tiene 6 estrellas Michelin en su haber, que tiene una dilatada carrera pese a su juventud, pero es que consiguió su primera estrella Michelin cuando solamente tenía 24 años. Después llegaron las otras 5, un sinfín de premios y de reconocimientos y realmente lo que le ha traído y hasta aquí, el ser el líder de un panorama gastronómico que nos va a contar a partir de ahora. Hoy, a cargo del restaurante Abac de Barcelona, es uno de los chefs más reconocidos de nuestro país, cara visible del programa MasterChef. Tengo el placer de presentar a Jordi Cruz. Jordi.
Hola a todos, buenos días. ¿Cómo estás?
Jordi es un adalid de la cocina evolutiva e inquieta basada en el producto y que marida tradición y modernidad. Con lo cual, bienvenido. No podíamos tener un compañero mejor para este momento.
¿Qué tal, metamigos? ¿Cómo estáis?
Jordi, el metaverso es un concepto relativamente nuevo. Todos los que estamos aquí estamos construyendo ese concepto, pese a que en la mayor parte de nuestras conversaciones todos los días sale el metaverso. Esto es un proyecto a 10, 15 años que estamos construyendo entre toda la industria y supongo que esta fase es muy similar a la de la creación de un restaurante o a la de la creación de un menú, a lo cual tú estás muy acostumbrado. ¿Puedes contarnos algo más sobre qué proceso hay detrás de esto? ¿De dónde viene tu inspiración?
Sobre el proceso creativo, dices. Yo creo que es reflexivo. Tiene dos partes el proceso creativo. Una parte que es totalmente espontánea, intuitiva, totalmente fruto de un pensamiento o una preparación previa que es mucho más reflexiva y que tarda muchos años. O sea, todo lo que tú vas aprendiendo, toda la información que vas recogiendo son como colores que al final plasmas en un lienzo que es un plato. Y eso es un proceso lento, obsesivo, de meterle ahí muchas horas, de relajarte incluso, de no forzarlo, porque cuanto más lo fuerzas, menos sale, y fruto de la tenacidad y un trabajo constante. Al final reúnes cuanta más información, te quedas con pequeñas chispas que dices, mira, por aquí puede salir algo, apuestas por pequeñas cosas y dejas que tu capacidad y lo que has aprendido de forma espontánea a veces te ayude y salgan las ideas que no sabes de dónde vienen, ¿no? Pues imagino que el metaverso ha tenido mucho tiempo de preparación, mucha tecnología que ha girado en torno a que este universo sea posible y pequeñas cosas que le han potenciado, como el COVID, por desgracia, ¿no? Que ha hecho que todos trabajemos más desde casa y busquemos formas de que la distancia no sea un impedimento para trabajar con sensaciones de proximidad reales. Bueno, mi proceso creativo, que me estoy enrollando, perdón, es totalmente fortuito y totalmente fruto de la devoción por lo que me gusta y de ese hobby que para mí es mi trabajo y esa vocación de querer hacer algo singular, ¿no? Algo que realmente tenga un valor, aparte de ganarte tu sueldo y de que tus clientes salgan felices, algo que trascienda un poquito lo meramente cotidiano, ¿no? Aportar algo.
Supongo que además no lo haces solo. Esa gran frase que dice que si quieres llegar rápido, vete solo, si quieres llegar lejos, vete acompañado. Y todos los que estamos aquí sabemos que el metaverso es un proyecto de industria y que estamos trabajando conjuntamente todos los líderes del sector para construirlo. Entiendo que en tu caso eso ocurre también. ¿En quiénes te apoyas? ¿Qué otros grandes chefs o qué otros actores de la industria son tu inspiración y te ayudan a caminar?
No, hay mucha gente que se piensa que por el hecho de hacer televisión nunca estoy en mi restaurante, cosa que ahora a la que termine esta charla me voy cagando leches en mi restaurante, pero muchos clientes te dicen, ¿no? Oye, cuando tú no estás, ¿quién cocina? Y digo, mira, los mismos que cuando estoy. Porque al final yo tengo 4 restaurantes, que tenemos 4 hoteles, y en nuestro equipo hay unas 240 personas, cocineros, camareros, y entre todos intentamos que la cosa funcione. Es un tema de espíritu, es un tema de equilibrio, es un tema de que tienes una orquesta y tú solo eres el director, solo tienes la batutilla, pero es tan importante o más el violín que el palito del director. Por lo tanto, es un tema de saber generar equipos, de saber generar sinergias, de transmitir ideas claras, de transmitir ilusiones, de ejercer un control también y una presión, todo de una forma equilibrada. Y, lógicamente, yo sería autosuficiente con un carrito de perritos calientes. Serían los mejores perritos calientes del mundo, pero abarcaría a mi carrito, a mis 2 metros y a mi capacidad para hacer 100 hot dogs al día, no hacer más. Y si hago lo que hago es gracias a mucha gente, a muchos equipos, que cuando este metaverso sea más sólido, tenga más capacidad y esté con la capacidad que todos esperamos que tenga, a mí me soluciona la vida, porque desde mi despacho y mi restaurante pues me podré reunir con mis jefes de cocina, hacer pruebas en directo, podré hacer estas cositas que hago los domingos, que son directos de cocina, los podré hacer casi desde mi casa, desde mi cocina, pero para 3.000 o 30.000 personas, como si estuviesen en el comedor de mi casa. Pues yo creo que se abre un universo fantástico, de muchas posibilidades, muy mágico, si le damos buen uso, claro, y muy ilusionante, con muchas oportunidades y muy diverso.
Era prácticamente mi tercera pregunta.
Sí.
Sí, que no son solamente las personas, sino también la tecnología. El metaverso te transporta a experiencias inmersivas, la gastronomía también. ¿Cómo ves la posibilidad de que ambos mundos confluyan en un futuro?
Súper bien. Caray, se han visto cosas mucho más complicadas. La tecnología sirve para, al igual que las técnicas culinarias o ese tipo de historias, sirven para solucionar problemas. Cuando tú tienes la idea de un plato que sabes que es un plato real, maravilloso, dices, vale, ya tengo la idea, ahora ¿cómo lo materializo? Pues el uso de la técnica, el uso de tus conocimientos, el uso de la tecnología sirve para materializar, no para ser protagonista. Ese sería el error, ¿no? Cuando nos quedamos solo con la parte estética de las cosas, frívola, de usar por usar, ¿no? Cuando vas a un restaurante y te ponen un esférico, un aire, o el jarrito con el nitrógeno, meramente por el espectáculo, creo que carece de mucho sentido. Pero ahora hablamos de una historia totalmente diferente, porque estamos en un mundo que se calienta, en un mundo que se estropea, en un mundo donde damos muchos viajes y perdemos mucho tiempo vital en el mero hecho de movernos de un lado a otro. Y el meta servirá para simplificar eso, ¿no? Para que las relaciones humanas, ya sean laborales o sean de cualquier tipo, sean más asequibles y sean mejores. Esa es la parte positiva. Luego estará esa generación que solo tendrá metaamigos. Eso también será malo porque dejarán de saber comunicarse de una forma cercana, como lo estamos haciendo tú y yo. Y esa será la parte negativa. Todo tiene su lado negativo si lo buscas, ¿no? Pero yo me quiero quedar con el positivo, ese de poder llegar a mucha más gente, de poder ser mucho más ágil en ese sentido. Hay mucha gente que me dice, ¿cómo un cocinero acaba haciendo televisión? Es muy sencillo. En mi restaurante cocino para 50 personas a la vez. Y hablo de gastronomía, y hablo de cultura, y hablo de lo que a mí me gusta a 50 personas a la vez. La televisión te permite llegar a millones de personas y ser mucho más didáctico. Quizás no hablo de mi gastronomía, hablo de la gastronomía tradicional, hablo de muchas cosas. Le tengo que poner un componente entretenido, tengo que darle un garrotazo a alguien de vez en cuando, pero sirve para difundir gastronomía y gracias a eso, a estos 10 años que llevamos haciendo MasterChef, los niños pequeños saben quién es Joan Roca o Ferran Adrià y vienen a tu restaurante y tú le dices, ¿quieres unos canelones? Y dice, no, quiero el menú de degustación y no te equivoques. Por lo tanto, ha sido muy útil la unión de cocineros, de entretenimiento y de televisión. Ahora hay que ver cómo la unión de tecnología, la unión de realidad virtual, todo eso da la posibilidad de que el mundo esté más conectado, haya más facilidad, nos tengamos que mover menos para ser productivos y estar en contacto con nuestros equipos, que nos ayude, ¿no? En vez de ser algo que pueda llegar a ser perjudicial.
Pues no sabes cómo me gustan esas palabras, Jordi, y estoy segura de que te estoy trasladando un mensaje generalizado por parte de este auditorio donde todos creo que pensamos que la tecnología realmente tiene un montón de bondades que hay que potenciar y obviamente tiene una serie de peligros que hay que minimizar, pero somos más que conscientes y sobre todo en los últimos tiempos que el mundo no solo lo estropea la tecnología, lo estropean también las personas y por eso me ha encantado este mensaje que acabas de trasladar.
Caray, estamos ahora mismo pensando cómo arreglar el mundo. Esta es una de las herramientas para arreglar el mundo, porque creo que no solo porque contaminaremos menos, evidentemente, al tener que desplazarnos menos. Y los jefes estarán tranquilos porque será como tenerte al lado y ejercerán un control muy parecido y lo pueden hacer de tú a tú, pero a 1000 kilómetros de distancia. O sea, mi chica, por ejemplo, que es de Brasil y ha dejado su empresa para venir a vivir conmigo, llevamos 2 años que ella, yo la veo sufrir por no poder estar en las reuniones que hace, pues con la sensación de proximidad, y hacen reuniones telemáticas y demás. Pero le falta esa sensación de proximidad. Yo llevo 2 años diciéndole, tranquila, metaverso, podrás hacer reuniones con tu equipo, con la sensación de que están aquí al lado y estarás mucho más tranquila. Eso me ha agotado la relación de momento. Por lo tanto, creo que aparte de eso tiene 1000 cosas buenas y que al mundo, al planeta le vendrá muy bien. Contaminaremos menos, las relaciones serán mejores, seremos igual de productivos. ¿Puede haber una parte positiva? Claro, seguro que la habrá, porque el ser humano es capaz de lo mejor y de lo peor, pero a primera instancia creo que es una herramienta súper positiva.
Pues vamos a intentar enfocarnos en lo mejor y entre todos contribuir a minimizar lo peor. Te voy a llevar de vuelta para finalizar a MasterChef, porque creo que es un programa totalmente disruptivo en el que el espectador desde el primer momento está involucrado en el proceso creativo y en el proceso de aprendizaje de todos y de cada uno de los participantes. De hecho, está involucrado en la creación de las recetas desde el momento de la conceptualización o de la ideación y luego durante todo el desarrollo de ese proceso. ¿Cómo ves la tecnología en este entorno para la creación de esas experiencias inmersivas?
Bueno, piensa lo que te decía, yo hago directos los domingos, soy el director de la escuela online de MasterChef. Hemos hablado sobre todo de grupos de trabajo, pero a nivel escuela, a nivel formación, me parece que es la leche. O sea, que es una forma de poder llegar de una forma cercana y de poder ser mucho más didáctico, con sensaciones mucho más reales y para poder focalizarte mucho en la gente a la que estás enseñándole desde la distancia o como tú lo quieras hacer. Quiero ver cómo se puede adaptar incluso el mundo de la tele al metaverso. O sea, cuándo nacerán programas de televisión dentro de un entorno como el metaverso. Todo eso está por ver, está por andar, ¿no?
Ya hemos hecho alguno, ¿eh?
Sí, quiero ver cómo funciona, porque ahora dicen que la etapa de oro de las series ya ha muerto, se dice ahora. Pues quiero ver cómo es ese futuro. Por lo tanto, ahora mismo se ha plantado una semilla, que es el metaverso. Todo el mundo pregunta qué es. Dentro de 4 días ya tendrá capacidad para que esos avatares ya tengan tu cara, ya tengan tu forma. Habrá mucha más capacidad de gestión de datos. Y en 4 días habrá una super revolución. Eso yo estoy convencido. Yo estoy haciendo el primer restaurante digital. Lo estamos preparando para abrir el año que viene, ¿no? Y será una super revolución que nos va a permitir unir gastronomía y arte. Con el trabajo de un amigo mío que es pintor, que es Piquero, haremos un follón muy bonito y todo es a través de las puertas y las posibilidades que genera el metaverso. Súper ilusionado y con ganas de ver lo que pasa, cómo afectará a la tele, cómo afectará a las relaciones, cómo afectará a nuestra forma de vivir todos los días y cuánto tiempo nos va a regalar, porque al final, si yo puedo trabajar desde casa y puedo hacer que las reuniones sean ágiles, que mi jefe o mis trabajadores tengan la sensación de haber cumplido como si estuviésemos cerca, ese tiempo que ganaremos, lo ganaremos en calidad de vida, en poder disfrutar de la vida, que a mí me pasa. Yo llevo 10 años sin tener tiempo para ir al dentista, para ir, ¿sabes? Y estoy como loco para mí lo que ahora mismo tiene más valor es mi tiempo personal. Espero que este meta me dé la capacidad de recuperar tiempo para mí, ¿no? Imagínate si es positivo y si tiene la capacidad de cambiar al mundo y de cambiar nuestras vidas y de cambiarlo todo.
El dentista es una de esas experiencias que aunque todos quisiéramos que se pudiese trasladar al metaverso, no tengo nada claro que se
Yo creo que acabaremos yendo al metadentista, lo tengo claro. Me preocupa el metarrestaurante, porque hay mucha gente que dice, no, ya puedes comer en el metaverso. Eso ya lo veo más complicado. Pero seguro que encontrarán una solución para que nuestras papilas gustativas sientan ciertos sabores a través de algún dispositivo. No lo sé. Es tan interesante y es tan motivador y te genera tantas ganas de ver lo que va a pasar que todo lo que motive, todo lo que te ponga las pilas es útil. Y lo está diciendo un cocinero, un quemacazos, un pelagambas. Imagínate la gente que realmente sabéis de tecnología, el jugo que le podéis sacar.
Bueno, sabes mucho más de tecnología de lo que quieres contar y yo tengo que agradecerte que seas un adalid de la innovación y de la creatividad desde la moderación.
Sí, por supuesto.
Y que hayas estado hoy aquí con nosotros pues, para contarnos un poquito no solo el presente, sino también el futuro de la gastronomía, no solo en nuestro país, sino a nivel global. Así que muchísimas gracias, Jordi.
Un placer. Gracias a todos, metamigos.
Por ahí sí. Y para hablaros del metaverso, ahora tengo el placer de presentaros a Austin Chang, que es el director de diseño de producto en Meta. Muchas gracias a todos. Austin.
And good morning. Thank you all for joining us today for day 3 of Fyuz, focused on the metaverse. It's really great to be here with all of you in actual reality. Today, I'd like to spend some time answering a question that all of you might have, which is, what is the metaverse? I hope to give you an update on our progress so far and our vision for the metaverse. The first thing to understand is that the metaverse is the evolution of our desire to capture and share the world around us. Ever since humans have been painting on the walls of caves, we've had this irrepressible desire to capture, memorialize, and share the experiences that we're having. People forget, paint is technology, and we've gotten better at it over the years. Not only the paints themselves, but the artistry and technique of the painters, to the point where people are able to produce with photographic quality the world around them. Technology is also a big democratizing force. With the advent of chemistry and optics and photography, all of us are now able to recreate the world around us in photographic quality. And that's the state of the world today. All of us are walking around with high-resolution digital video cameras in our pockets, and we're able to capture the world in 4K resolution and share that with our family and friends on the internet. And we believe 3D immersion is a natural step in this progression, and that's why we believe in the vision of the metaverse. Now, this progression of increasingly higher fidelity reproduction of the world around us also mirrors the development of the internet itself. If you guys remember back to the early days of the internet, we were sending primarily text and drawings to photos, and now where we are today, where video has really taken over. So we believe we're at this cusp where the technology underlying this effort allows us to take this next step to true 3D reproduction. That's why we believe the metaverse is an immersive internet enabled by the next generation of computing. The underlying technologies that empower the metaverse is something we're investing in. And that begins with the hardware and software of the next generation of computing devices. Last week, we announced the MetaQuest Pro, our most advanced VR headset. This is a mixed reality headset with cameras on the outside that allow you to see the world around you and digitally superimpose 3D objects and experiences on top of them. There are also brand new advanced sensors inside of this headset that detect your face, what you're looking at, and the expressions that you're making, so that we can recreate that on your avatar. So in addition to investing in this foundational hardware and software for the next generation of computing, we're also investing in new foundational technologies like avatars. We've made great strides in the quality of our avatars, in that they have legs now, And this year, Mark was actually able to give part of his keynote as an avatar. What you're seeing here now is actually our codec avatars. This is not a video of Mark. This is a photorealistic next-generation avatar. So you can imagine, in the next couple of years, putting on one of our advanced headsets and being able to make eye contact with one of your friends, one of your colleagues across the internet, as if you were really in the room with them. Now, all of these foundational technologies, including avatars, is what will enable the next generation of immersive 3D experiences over the internet. This will be a new way we can collaborate and hang out, work together. And look how expressive this avatar is based on those sensors I mentioned in the headset. We've got new controllers that allow you to manipulate the 3D world, the virtual 3D world around you, so friends can collaborate on projects together regardless of how far apart they are in reality. And this is why we believe in this vision for the metaverse, because it's really going to transform the way that we live, work, and play. And we're making investments across this entire stack to bring this vision to life. Now, this vision is not that far out. The metaverse is coming to the apps and devices people use today. Next year, we're going to be taking our social metaverse product, Horizon Worlds, and bringing them to everyone on the mobile devices and the PCs that they own today. So these experiences will be available on desktop web and mobile web. You'll be able to quickly set up an account, create an avatar for yourself, and then enter this 3D immersive space, even if you don't have a headset yet. And we believe this will open up the opportunities of the metaverse to more people. Our teams spent a lot of time making sure that experiences on mobile were just as rich and just as expressive as the experiences you can have in headset. And of course, as people have these amazing experiences, they'll be able to share them out back into our family of apps. So also next year, you'll begin to see metaverse entry points in our entire family of apps as people share content on Facebook, Instagram, Messenger, and WhatsApp. Lastly, our vision for the metaverse is open and interoperable. This is not something we're going to build alone. Just like the internet, it's going to require a lot of partnership with people like you to bring this vision to life. Everything I've shown you today, from the next generation of computing hardware to these interoperable technologies such as avatars, that enable these interconnected immersive experiences, are all made possible by internet connectivity. It's really the lifeblood of this technology. And that's why we really need your help to help us make networks everywhere metaverse ready. With partners like you, we hope all of these pieces will come together, and you can see how this vision comes together.
I had this idea. I was walking, and then just like this beat came to me. Want to try it out?
This set of plans is not showing us the level of accessibility that we really want.
Yeah, I'm really liking what you're doing with the overall shape.
Bring the bass in a little bit.
She's a little shy right now. She understands she's being painted.
This one, I was thinking maybe a little thinner.
Opening shot. A car comes in to the front area of the hotel.
Oh, Birdie, come on, yeah!
Are you goofing?
No!
Okay, so Act 3.
Yes! I'm good at this.
Isn't this cool? So let's go and build this vision out together. Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy your day here. Thanks, Diego.
All right, wasn't that a great way to start? We had one of the most famous chefs in the world, Jordi. I just realized on backstage that him and I have 6 Michelin stars together. And then we had one of these guys out there building the metaverse. But we want to start with the next section. We have 3 Metaverse 360 panels today. We are going to start with the first one, where we're going to talk about use cases and applications for the metaverse. And as you can imagine, this is nowadays a hot topic in the industry. Everybody wants to know what's the use case for the metaverse, what those look like. For that, I'm extremely excited to welcome on stage Mike Veltzner, Director of Product Management for Horizons at Meta. Mike, please join us.
Hi. Thanks so much, and welcome to our panel on use cases for the metaverse. Austin just talked about what is the metaverse. Now what I'd like to do is bring out some people who've been working on building metaverse experiences, working with consumers, enterprises, and other businesses to share what they've learned about the use cases that have been resonating with people and insights that we can glean from that. I'd like to start by welcoming Edu to the stage. Edu is the Chief Metaverse Operations Officer at Utopia Voyagers. Thanks very much. And Marta, who is the Head of New Business from Vodafone. Good to see you. And Nick Rosa, who's the Metaverse Strategy Lead at Accenture. Nick's also carrying a copy of the book that he is just publishing today about the metaverse. I'm sure he'll be happy to tell you about that after the session if you come and find him.
Absolutely.
All right, please, everyone, have a seat. Yeah. So, hoping that this will just be an informal conversation, despite the fact that we're all microphoned up and sitting a safe pandemic distance apart, which I respect healthily, so that's great. The first question I've got for you all is, you've been working in the metaverse longer than most other people because you've been working in the metaverse. And it's a very new technology field. It's a very new user field. The most common question I get in my own role, and my role right now at Meta is working on the platform for Horizon Worlds, which is a metaverse ecosystem that is primarily user-generated that we're building. And what I get asked all the time is, what is the metaverse for? What is it good for? And so I'd love to hear each of your perspective on the use cases that you have found have resonated most amongst the businesses and customers that you've been working with.
Okay. Well, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here in this venue with this crowd. Well, we have been in the market for 8 years doing stuff for different clients, different brands. And I think I would add value if I explain more or less the things that we did during that time that we think it was more or less successful. For example, in the case of the marketing, it was like the first wave of things we did since the beginning, since the 2014. And marketing, it was really successful. It's like the metaverse is like the most emotional way. Media, it was absolutely great. And we created like tons of different marketing applications. The issue with that is only one shot, two shot. So that's the main thing that maybe brands were thinking how to monetize the development for 1-2 shots. So it was great, but maybe it's like the first wave. But for me, the king gorilla, the market who is gaining the market in the business side is maybe the learning and the training tools, as we did for Inditex, for General Electric, because these kind of tools are using or being used on a daily basis. So that's like the main thing in that case. And of course, maybe you can use different things, not only doing the marketing, the training things. We did something for tourism that it was really, really interesting, something for Lanzarote with Marta, something for Catalonia, doing a video game that it was called Legends of Catalonia that was published in PlayStation VR for more than 600,000 downloads. Wow. Yeah, it was incredible, and it was 3 years ago. And it's a question of using in a creative way the technology to show people how they can know different places all over the world. Well, more or less it's a question of, okay, let's go to do something in a creative way and to focus more on the user experience, on the quality of the thing, and try not to create something only in mind to recreate like the digital twin, like the world, the real world into the virtual world. We strongly think that we have to add like different things like gamification techniques. I'm not talking about doing gaming. The gaming is huge in VR and in the metaverse. I'm talking about applying gamification techniques into these common or business activities, and everything, it's going great with that.
That's interesting. So early use cases felt much like entertainment, like a movie where you'd buy a ticket, you do the thing once and go through it. And then the one that is, or the use case that was resonating and finding reusability was training and learning.
That's it.
But you're also seeing opportunity to find that sort of reusable use case within these entertainment and brand experiences.
That's it.
Marta?
So I would like to share some thoughts about the how these use cases should be. What we have found with our customers, with the feedback of customers, is that the content they want to share is a snackable content, very easy to consume.
Yeah.
So at the beginning, we were thinking more about watching films, a film of 1 hour. This is not something that customers want to do now in the metaverse. They prefer snackable content.
Their neck gets sore.
And also, they want the content to be shared with their people, their friends, their family. So whatever the use case is, it should be social, okay?
Yeah.
And then we found two very key insights about the metaverse potential, no? Which are related with realism and exploration. Yeah. These are the two big things that Metaverse can give to customers, and they cannot find these things in social network or in the traditional website, no? So this is about creating this kind of realism of experiencing things as if it was real, with all the sense. It's related with the Internet of Sense evolution. And also, it's about exploration, which is something that is inherent to the human being. And we found out that people keep attracted by the metaverse use cases when they see that they can discover new things, they can explore. It's totally different from what we already have, because they already know everything about the traditional web.
And moreover, if you are thinking about the mainstream, not only like the set generation or maybe the gamers, if you're thinking in the mainstream, I think I really do agree with your conclusions.
That's why in Vodafone what we created was a kind of thematic park. We created it with Utopia. And the things that customers can do there are things like watch concerts, films, travel around the world, or relax in a room with planets, no? Are things similar to these ones.
Yeah, it's super interesting. I want to read some of these things back, because you went through a bunch of key insights that were important. So I heard snackable, not long-term content. Social, obviously, near and dear to my heart, as well as the idea of exploration and discovery in the metaverse as things that you found resonating with customers initially in the use cases. Is that right?
Yep.
That's awesome. Nick, I'd love to get your take on what use cases you and Accenture have seen as resonating.
Well, Accenture has created this new business group that is called the Accenture Metaverse Continuum Business Group. And we call it Continuum because we believe that the metaverse is not obviously just the top slice of what we see, like the front end, but it's a deep stack of an infrastructure. So, and it's composed by a lot of technologies. And those technologies can enable multiple use cases. I believe that the main ones are, obviously, first one, create continuous engagement with an audience, like, for example, what Nike is doing with Nike Land on Roblox. The second one is, obviously, engaging with the communities. Let's not forget that the metaverse is a creator's economy. So it's important to understand that there's a potential strategy to expand and maximize your products through reaching those communities of creators that can be your creatives in those platforms. There's another pillar that is related to create new products and services that are specific to the metaverse that were unthinkable before. Think about companies like L'Oreal that created a line of virtual makeup in augmented reality during the pandemic for doing conf calls without having to put some real makeup on. And also engage through experiences, like, for example, creating branded events that can propel brands through fan base and community. The metaverse is an extremely tribal place, so you have to create this sense of belonging into everything that you do over there. And last but not least, which is what we are doing at Accenture, and we are also doing for our clients. At Accenture, we've been doing it at scale. We've been the first to do it at such a scale. Use it for productivity and learning and training. At Accenture, we distributed 60,000 MetaQuest 2 headsets, and we onboarded more than 150,000 people in the last year and a half into this experience that we designed for onboarding our new joiners. And the experience, interestingly enough, was also designed for hybrid access, so both in VR and with laptops. So there are multiple aspects that cover the consumer and the enterprise space.
That's super interesting. And one thing that really strikes me in the examples that you've all shared is how few of them are really directly gaming related. And so I'd love to get your insight on what verticals you think are going to be the first to really embrace. I've heard lots of things about experiential verticals, training, and sort of enterprise verticals. I'm just curious to know if you have any instinct about what's going to help make this go more mainstream beyond just gaming use cases.
Well, first of all, we think we have a big challenge in the next few years. That is, we are right now in VR, very linked with the metaverse, in this experiential thing. We think that we have to go to the transactional thing. There is a challenge. We are in the experiential. We don't be in the transactional thing. So that's one of the challenges. In the VR ecosystem, I think that entertainment, as Marta with the Vodafone, it's going to be huge. More if it's focused on the generation stat, I think it's going to be huge. In the business side, the remote work, it's going to be huge. If we accomplish or get this kind of hyper-realistic avatars that Austin has shown with your codec avatar project, because it's difficult to use these animated cartoon interactions in business. Moreover, if you are in a company with a hierarchy, the conversation drives to different things, not on the focus on the business, maybe on the how you look like, you feel much fatter, these kind of things, conversations. So this for the VR. And I think for AR, that no one right now talk a lot about that because it's a little bit far, but it's not so far. It's a question of 1, 2, 3 years, I think not more, to have this. More or less. Well, we are with the project area. Other manufacturers are going to launch, and right now are some manufacturers with AR glasses in the market. But I think AR is going to change everything on our daily basis attitude, on the things that we do. So I think the AR is going to be the mainstream for the work. We are going to have this kind of superpowers. We are going to have something on our face that is going to give in real-time information, whatever we want. So I think for tourism, I know I envision, but maybe everyone here would envision this kind of way-finding solutions where you are talking through the street and you have information on real-time, geolocated, and someone, maybe an arrow on top of the street, it's guiding to you to wherever you want to go. It's like, I don't know if it's the killer app that everyone is trying to find, like the WhatsApp, for example, in the phone. But I think this kind of things is going to break new ground. Moreover, it's focused on the generation set. I'm like very stubborn with the generation set, but they are the ones who are embracing this kind of technology. You just have to check like the statistics or stats of Roblox, Zipeto, VRChat, other platforms that have thousands of users on a daily basis active. So I think it's more or less the way.
It's interesting. VRChat's a good example there of a non-gaming use case. Roblox and Rec Room are very gaming-centric. Marta, I'm curious to know what sort of non-gaming use cases you see erupting in the work that you've already been doing with Voda.
Well, I think that I totally agree with Edu, but I think also one of the verticals that will be totally disrupted will be the advertising one. Yeah. And I think that's also the reason why so many brands in the fashion, for example, or in the retail are also getting into the metaverse. I think the reason why is because in the metaverse you have the best of the advertising in the traditional world and the best of the digital world. You have, for example, the non-intrusive aspects of the out-of-door publicity, but with the personalization that you can get in the digital. So for sure, advertising, it's going to be disrupted. Then retail. the retail industry, I think the experience of shopping, it's something that it's clear it's going to change. We all want to have a taste about what we are going to buy. Yep. We want to try it. We want to see how would it fit in ourselves or in our home. And also, of course, the entertainment and the audiovisual content and the education, because everything related with learning represents an opportunity in the metaverse, because in the end, we all want to learn with all the tools, and sometimes when you learn in digital, you feel like you are losing some of the big things, and this is going to be solved by the metaverse.
Yeah. Awesome. Nick?
Yeah. It depends by the different kind of use cases that you're applying, from my point of view. Because from one side, obviously, there's the metaverse for consumers that everybody's seeing, and obviously, the use cases that are related to advertising and retail are very fitting for metaverse for consumers. But if you think about verticals like, for example, automotive, the enterprise side of the metaverse is super interesting. We're talking about collaborative design, design review, user acceptance testing, creating virtual reality training for the workforce in order to not only upskill your workforce, but also to understand the proficiency of the workforce to better plan the production lines, which is super important. Whenever also you train somebody, is usually 75% as proficient as an employee that has been doing the job for 1 year. You can fill that gap through mixed reality experiences and just-in-time training. And then after that, of course, you have all the part that is related to the product visualization, product configuration, marketing activations in the metaverse, but also post-sale support with augmented reality manuals. So there are different verticals that will have different advantages from this. And we are not talking about something that is super important as well, which is the blockchain is a huge part of the metaverse. So all the part that is related to digital identity and tokenization of assets in order to capitalize the second-hand market, for example. When you tokenize, you create a digital twin of physical assets. This can be valid for a car, but also, for example, for a mobile phone. It's a huge opportunity for companies that right now are not tapping into that market that is massive at the moment. So I think it depends by the vertical. To be honest with you, manufacturing from the enterprise side, and most from a business strategy side, and I would say that retail is super, super interesting right now in terms of metaverse.
There's a couple of common themes coming across here. And certainly what I'm hearing is a start and a lead in through productivity use cases that then bleed out into more consumer use cases that are experiential, et cetera. From my own reflection, what I'd say is the one vertical I didn't hear anybody bring up, but we've found at Meta to actually be very resonant right now is fitness. This morning I woke up and like I do every morning, I worked out in Supernatural. And I know lots of people do this. And the interesting thing is, as I'm reflecting again on, Marta, some of the things you shared about social exploration, et cetera, the things that really resonate for me about Supernatural are twofold. One is, it is an exploratory exercise experience. I'm working out everywhere in the world. I'm sometimes at the caldera of a volcano. I'm sometimes on an ice floe in Iceland. And that allows me to have a different type of experience than I would in a gym. And we're also seeing a lot of social use cases. The community aspect of these things becomes really important. And the ability, we haven't actually connected this yet, but I think we're going to, the ability to go from I'm doing something that is a very solo activity to I'm now sharing and talking about that activity with a group of people who also went through it is a way to sort of build on some of the experiential value that a brand or an application might have in the metaverse. It would be very irresponsible of me, especially within the context of Fyuz, to not spend a little bit of time thinking about what does this mean for connectivity providers. And so I'd love to get some reflections, and we'll start, Nick, and work back this way, on what you think the biggest implications are for people who, as telcos, as network providers, should be taking away from these use cases, both in terms of what they need to prepare for, but also where they can contribute a little more directly into the value chain.
It's a great question. I believe that probably the most important thing for any telco provider and any network provider right now is to think about a cohesive strategy to apply all this technology across all the different points of the value chain. there is an opportunity to create a new ecosystem of services and what we like to call omni-reality strategy. I was talking about before about the tokenization of mobile phones. That's one of the use cases. I was talking about the digital identity, which is another use case. It's important to think about, first of all, the kind of infrastructure that network providers have right now. We know that the future of the metaverse is in the cloud, and in order to create this kind of experience, you will need a big pipeline of data with low latency. If you think about how it's different from mobile right now you open a mobile page and then it's downloaded in the cache of your phone. When you're in a metaverse experience, the data go back and forth from your phone to the servers because you have to get voice, visuals, information from all the other users in real time. So it's a huge opportunity for telcos in order to capitalize this kind of the traffic. The second thing is that obviously we will need connectivity that is going to be ubiquitous everywhere. And also creating network slicing across all the different providers and create we like to call it network as a platform. So create a strategy that will allow multiple providers to cooperate and create this mesh of coverage across all the different parts of countries and region is super important. Create services and APIs that will open up the network to new experience and new companies that will want to use it. I think that it's going to be super important in the future of the metaverse.
Thank you.
As a telco, I have a lot to say now. I think there are three different roles where telco are going to be key. First one is, of course, infrastructure.
Yeah.
As Nick was saying. We need the edge computing. We really need it if we want to host all the cloud rendering, if we want to keep this low latency that is going to make this a good experience for customers. No? So as an infrastructure provider, I think it's clear. Then I think we have another key role as an enabler of all this ecosystem with cross capabilities. As Nick was saying, digital identity is one of them. One single wallet, for example, is another one, or how to protect all the passwords and all this stuff. Also, API exposure, I think it's in this second part of enablers for the metaverse to boost the environment. No? Also with network slicing, that in the end it's going to provide the specific resources we need for each use case. But we are missing a third part, which I think is very important, which is the monetization part.
Oh, yeah.
Why?
Yep.
Because in 4G, what happened in the end is that all the telcos, we provided the networks, but we didn't monetize the service layer. We were just connectivity pipes, no?
Yeah.
I think that was a mistake we committed in general as an industry, and the result of this is that what I see is that all the 5G deployment and everything could be even delayed if we don't see the return of the investment. And so for me, it's important that telcos also understand how to monetize this part of his part of the cake, because this is going to accelerate the deployment of those infrastructures, the network, the edge computing, 5G, that are infrastructure very, very expensive and very hard to deploy. So the three parts are important.
And just for Marta and I had a really interesting conversation yesterday where one of the things I was reflecting is as a new set of devices proliferates into the market in order to experience the metaverse, I think there's huge opportunities for telcos and for network providers to also operate as channels to deliver these devices and think about monetizing through different financing as well as channel delivery options there. Speaking as Meta, we could use all the extra channels we can get.
You're totally right, yes.
Yeah, and well, in my case, as a creator, and I have so much and many things to add from the things they said, but well, in my case, of course, we think that we want to do something new. And what are the new things that we want to do that, of course, this kind of infrastructure enables to us? For example, the XR cloud, the computing, the rendering computing in the cloud. We need a good infrastructure, a good throughput, high bandwidth, low latency, So these kind of things, if we don't have this infrastructure, it's going to be impossible to do this kind of high-quality XR cloud experiences.
Yeah, and compared to what we've seen traditionally in distributed computation, it's something where telcos, I think, and network providers are going to have a better advantage because they already have infrastructure up to the edge, whereas most companies like Meta, like Amazon, et cetera, have been working with data clouds.
That's it.
Or is that data lakes? Yeah.
That's it. And of course, in AR mobility, all the mobility use cases, if we want to go through the street another time and to have this connectivity over with this low latency and high bandwidth, we need this kind of 5G, 6G, whatever, high-speed connection in order to deliver a good user experience to the user. So we need that. If we don't have that, we are going to be in experiences maybe at home, in the offices, wherever you are, but not in AR, in mobility use cases, that I think, as I mentioned before, that it's going to be the thing that is going to be like the mainstream. I don't know if it's the killer app or it's going to be the killer app, but it's going to be something huge in the near term.
Yeah. So I didn't warn any of you that I was going to ask this question, but the final question that I wanted to have is like, to get a bit personal. What are the parts of the metaverse that excite you and the use cases of the metaverse that you've experienced that bring you back every day and that you have found have been personally resonant?
Yeah, well, in my case, social. I have like 3 moments in my life as a professional in this industry. The first, of course, was when I tried out for first time the VR goggles with the Samsung Innovation Edition. It was absolutely great. The second, it was when I checked my hands without any controller with lip motion, and it was incredible to say, hey, my hands are in the experience, and I don't need anything. The device is recognizing in real time. It was huge, but for me, the greatest was I was with someone there in my coach one Sunday, and I was talking with someone in New York, and it was a cube. And a cube that was blinking. I say, I'm talking with a cube, but with the sense of presence, with the sense of being with him, and it was huge and incredible. And I love the new headset with the Quest Pro, with the pass-through. The pass-through, I think it's like a micro-revolution in VR with this joint of the AR and the VR in the same headset. So it's more or less like the steps I follow.
Yeah. Marta?
In my case, for me, it's a very wow experience when I fly, no? Because it's something I'm scared of. I would like to do it in the real life, but I'm scared of. So flying like if I was in the sky, that is a use case that we created with Edu, it's amazing because I can feel it. So that's amazing for me. And I would like to play tennis from my home with someone and feel like he's passing the ball through, no? And I really would like to create that use case. We discussed about it in the past, and we need to create it.
Yeah, well, table tennis, there is a video game, table tennis, that's huge. It's one of the best video games, I think, in the market right now.
Yeah. For me, is experience incredible immersive storytelling. Like, for example, Half-Life Alyx, that for me has been probably the thing, the experience in VR that blew my mind the most. Obviously, there are other amazing games, but Half-Life Alyx is a glaring example of what perfect immersive storytelling is. But also Vader Immortal as well, really good one. And in terms of what excites me the most, I would say that the metaverse has a huge potential because it creates a new economy that can be driven by people and creators. And we are in a pivotal moment of our existence because for the first time in history of humanity, the possibilities of making money becomes decoupled and independent by your postcode of birth. Yeah. So if you're born in South America, if you're born in Vietnam, if you're born in the UK or in Africa, if you have a good idea and you know how to market that idea on the metaverse, you can make some money. Yeah. And it could be a good leveler to lift the boats for everybody. So this is very exciting for me.
Well, look, I knew this was going to happen, and believe it or not, that was 30 minutes. It's gone very quickly, and I have to thank Nick, Marta, and Edu for all of your shared insights. And I hope everyone enjoys the next set of 360 panels. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
you, Mike.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. It's been great.
I think we go off this way.
Okay.
All right, wasn't that great? Playing table tennis, immersive learning and experiences, flying. I think that was an amazing experience. I loved what Nick just said about having possibilities independently from the place you were born. But let's get moving. We have our second session, and we're going to go and talk about the ecosystem. We all know that the Metaverse has to be built by a community, by everybody out there that wants to build solutions, that wants to build networks, wants to be platforms. I see that Marta is already taking the driver's seat. Probably he liked the first panel, so he wants to take another one. So Marta, you take it on.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm here again. We have discussed about the use cases, so I think now it's time to discuss about what do we need in the network to make all these use cases a reality. So I'm very happy to present the speakers of this panel, Francois Moore, the optical architect and advisor in Fujitsu. Hello. We also have Gloria Touchard. She is the voice of customer CTO in Nokia. Nice to meet you. And we have Douglas Benitez. He is the managing director of Qualcomm for Spain and Portugal. So we have bring everything here, all the pieces, networks, chipsets, optics, and we are going to discuss about what are the challenges to create this metaverse network that is needed to enable all the use cases we were discussing about. So let's start with the network part. Gloria, what do you think are the main challenges for the network to create this metaverse?
Well, I think that we have several challenges ahead of us, but one of the main challenges is going to be the traffic. So we expect Metaverse generating a lot of traffic in our networks, but it's not only the volume, which is going to be huge, but as well as the traffic pattern, the traffic profile. So what we expect is that Metaverse is going to be much more demanding in terms of uplink. So far, the biggest traffic is coming from video, 4K video, 8K video. It's mainly downlink, and Metaverse, this immersive experience is going to really generate a lot of traffic in uplink. So we will need to be ready to absorb that kind of traffic, as well as latency. I think that there are other challenges as well on the device ecosystem, so I think that it's not mature enough. We expect to have some evolution on the device side. We expect that probably there will be some sort of disaggregation on the device ecosystem. We will be moving certain capabilities in terms of processing from the device towards more to the edge of the network. And the network needs to be ready to support any kind of behavior of those devices and how they are going to consume the resources of the network. To conclude, I would like to emphasize as well, we have a big challenge. So we, at global level, as a world, we have a big challenge, which is the climate change, which is sustainability. And Metaverse is going to be generating a lot of traffic. And one of the main challenges we have as well is how we are going to increase capacity in our networks, but being sustainable. So we really need to evolve our networks, introducing new advanced chipsets that help us to reduce power consumption in the networks, as well as through AI, ML algorithms to as well improve the energy efficiency of the networks to be able to materialize the metaverse traffic, but keeping our sustainability.
Okay, clear. So if we deep dive a little bit on the architecture perspective, what do you think, Francois, will be the main requirements from the architecture perspective?
I think from a network perspective, in terms of architecture, the network historically has always been designed a bit as a funnel. It was optimized for taking traffic from the edge and bringing it to the core of the network. And what we're observing today is the traffic flows are changing. The traffic flows are remaining a lot more at the edge. We're seeing a lot of growth in the edge-to-edge connectivity. which will probably accelerate with applications like the metaverse because of the latency requirements, because of the capacity requirements in order to have the immersive customer experience. The traffic will have to remain local. The number of touch points of the traffic at layer 2 and layer 3 will have to be minimized. And this fundamentally changes the architecture of the network, the optical and wireless infrastructure that's going to be required for the metaverse.
Okay. What about 5G? For example, Douglas, what do you think will be the use cases that 5G will enable?
Very good. First of all, good morning. Pleased to be here. First, I would like to make a distinction first, because when we talk about metaverse, it's a very generic term. We have been discussing this for a while, so I don't want to be repetitive, but we need to separate 5G use cases from VR, MR, and augmented reality. Because mostly VR, MR are mostly indoor type of things. In most cases, it's static. So then when we go outdoors, we are talking about AR. So that's what we believe 5G will be very beneficial to this type of use cases when we are outside, when we are outdoors. So there are a bunch of use cases. We can go here for hours discussing we are actually discussing on potential use cases, but if you simply separate on consumer type of use cases, enterprise type of use cases, like consumer, you can go tourism, you can go shopping on multiple pillars of shopping, what shopping represents. We can go communications, we can go there is a bunch of examples on the consumer and also on enterprise when you do maybe remote maintenance. This is very, very common type of discussion. I think our point here is that 5G will be mostly tied to AR type of applications, and that's where we need to focus on the specificities of AR and which kind of features we need to have in the network to enable AR type of use cases.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, also because we need to make this journey step by step. So it's very unlikely that we wake up one day and we'll have all this metaverse life in our daily activities. So we need to go step by step. So totally agree with the AR path. So do you think that only the radio network is going to be disrupted here, Gloria? Or do you think that?
Well, I think that the whole network is going to be impacted by metaverse. Actually, in Nokia, when we look at metaverse, we look at metaverse in different domains. So it's not only about the entertainment, and we link metaverse a lot as well with what we call the physical fusion and human augmented as well. So for instance, if we look at metaverse at the enterprise domain, this is going to be mainly indoors, so linked to what we were discussing before. And those indoors, now that everybody is working from home, so what we are trying to do is to evolve those applications that we have today in the enterprise world to be more immersive. And this is going to need more bandwidth and better latency. So we will need, for instance, to evolve our fiber networks that today is like GPON, XGS-PON, needs to be evolved to new technologies like 25 GPON or 50 GPON or even in the future 100 GPON. And as well, when we increase traffic on the access side, we need to transport all that traffic to the application side. So the IP networks and the optical networks need to absorb all that traffic as well. And we need to bring more automation and more flexibility to adapt to this kind of immersive traffic that we're going to be creating using Metaverse. And for instance, when we look at the industry domain, I think that Metaverse, together with digital twin, which is some sort of this Metaverse, is bringing a lot of value to this industry. And what we expect there is that we are going to need very dedicated networks to manage this industry traffic, which is, well, right now we are calling it private wireless networks. And these networks needs to be adapted to support very strong and demanding latencies. We need to reinforce the uplink traffic. And yeah, so the end-to-end network is going to be impacted.
So everything is going to be impacted.
Yeah.
And I think another challenge that we'll have is how are we going to offload all the computing tasks, the heavy computing tasks that usually are now handled by the device. How are we going to offload this to the network? No? From a device perspective, Douglas, what do you think are the main tasks, computing tasks, that we can bring it to the network instead of the device?
That's a very good question and a very difficult question to answer. Because when we see the architecture of, and I will concentrate my answer in the AR for now. When you think of AR, and you have most likely a viewer, this viewer may or may not be directly connected to the network. So you may have a pod, you may have your phone. So the offload of the processing is already part of the architecture. So some of the things you will process in your phone, some of the things your phone will share with the network, and some of the things your glass, when it is going to be, in some point in the future, connected directly to the network, sharing this. So for this offload to happen, and one thing that is very important for AI use cases is your latency. So for that to happen, we cannot avoid talking about MEC, densification, and building capacity. When you talk about MEC, it's clear one of the strategies that goes along with the Metaverse rollout. One thing that is important when you think about MEC is AI accelerators in the edge. So this is an important piece for that to be offloaded. And it is also important that we think on how this processing loop will be managed. So this is something very important. When you look at the offload of traffic in VR, MR inside, we also need to rethink the routers that are in our homes. So maybe we need to build new capabilities for the traffic of MR and VR are also locally processed in a kind of residential MEC, and those processings being sharing like application layer, traffic optimization, graphic renderings that goes along with your local processing, and the cloud edge on MEC.
Okay. So there's a lot of stuff to do. That's the main summary. Yes. And what do you think, Francois, it's the impact in the optical network of all of this revolution?
The network increasingly will be wireless in terms of access or fiber, but there's still a very large importance to the optical infrastructure, because what we have to remember is at the bottom of every cell tower is the start of an optical network. And this optical network is going to be instrumental in meeting the capacity requirements that are required in order to transport and provide the services that the customer will require. The view that we have is that increasingly the network will be all optical. There's a need to minimize the number of electrical touch point in that infrastructure, and then that will contribute to increase the efficiency and the flexibility of the infrastructure.
Okay, so if you would say what is the fundamental thing, technology thing that needs to be done, what would you say it is?
I think one of the things that's fundamental in terms of technology is we're going to have to eliminate the layers. The network initially was designed around a 7-layer OSI stack, which is highly segmented. And it has a lot of conversions from layer to layer, and also a multiplication of equipment in central offices and data centers. And there's going to be a need to consolidate this in order to increase the efficiency of the network, because the challenges that are going to be brought forward by the metaverse in terms of latency and complexity of service offering will require a reduction of the processing as much as possible, and each layers are going to be required to be more aware of each other in order to make the network devices be more efficient, aware, and flatten the amount of processing that is required in order to give the customer experience that they're expecting.
Yeah, so it's clear that we are facing one of the biggest challenges that we ever had from a technology perspective, no? Sometimes it's good to learn also from the past, from other challenges similar that we faced. Do you have any example? Maybe Gloria, in Nokia, did you face any challenge similar to this?
Yeah, of course. So in digital communication, we have had many challenges here. So for instance, we had a very big challenge in terms of traffic volumes when we shift from linear TV, IPTV, to video on demand. And it was really a fast change. And actually, so we had to re-architect our networks and redefine a more distributed network in order to be able to bring content delivery networks more to the edge, because we were moving from an architecture where we were sharing like a common path, multicast traffic, and then just at the end, on the last mile, we were multiplexing that traffic, when suddenly in video on demand, any single end user was connected in a single and different stream. And that was a big challenge, and we need to do some network architecture to be able to absorb all that traffic. The good thing is that once we define and architecture the networks in that way, we have been able to absorb other traffic volume peaks that we've seen, like for instance during the COVID lockdown. So the traffic pattern in the networks, it was from one day to another. It was really completely, so the traffic was completely changed. It was all the traffic was being generated from our homes, and suddenly the home was becoming an office, a cinema. It was the gaming that required a lot of latency. So it was a real challenge. But the networks were already adapted to absorb these kind of peak of networks. And sometimes it's not have been only about traffic volume, but as well the behavior of the terminal. So we were before discussing about, well, the maturity of the devices in Metaverse, it's going to be a challenge. So I remember when the smartphones arrived, so we were preparing the networks because, well, due to the capabilities that those devices had, we knew that there was going to be much more data in our networks. But we were not ready to certain devices that when they came into the networks, they were creating so much signaling that at the very beginning they were killing the nodes because it was a behavior that was not expected and never happened before. And we had to adapt to it as well. We had to fine-tune. There was an interoperability that was worked. And then once we made that optimization, everything was working properly. And these kind of challenges are going to be similar in the Metaverse.
Yeah. And I think we can learn something very clear from your example, which is that the ecosystem needs to work together if we want this to work. No? We need to network needs to work very closely to the devices to understand the signaling patterns, how is going to be the behavior, to adapt, and also what are the demands or the futures we are going to need. No? So it's clear that in this Metaverse story, all the pieces are going to be needed, and we need to work together. And also related to these features that are going to be needed, what do you think, Douglas, are going to be the advanced features of this 5G standalone advance that will be needed for the Metaverse?
Coming back to the use case that everybody wants, which have a glass that overlays images in the space for you. So the AR is mostly about it. So overlaying images, graphics in your glass in the space. For that, we need to have low latency or ultra low latency, because if the latency is not there, the use case is completely killed, because it needs to be super fast, because it needs to read the 6 DOF everybody talks about. So the way you move in the environment, so it quickly understands what you're looking at and how it actually reacts to your move. So latency is fundamental. It's a fundamental piece for that. Another thing that is very important is densification. So we need to have dense networks. And for that, there are a couple of things that we need to do together. Similar partnerships like Qualcomm and Vodafone did, announcing the Open RAN collaboration. This will help to massify and densify the networks. And on top of these dense networks, we need to think about millimeter wave, because millimeter wave really brings capacity when it's needed. Not necessarily the 10 gigabits per second per user, but when you have dense areas, everybody using a glass and needing a fast response, that's where millimeter wave is coming and providing an answer. And lastly, I think one very important feature that we need to consider is the red cap, or 5G NR Lite, or reduce capabilities, because this will help us decrease the size of the chips. So when you have a smaller chip, you can have a better or a better suited type of glass.
More ergonomic glasses.
More ergonomic type of glass.
We still have room of improvement there.
Exactly. We have lots of room of improvement, but red cap from the devices side and from the network side is another fundamental piece. So I would summarize in those three. Build capacity with millimeter wave, with dense networks, having super low latency type of networks, and reduce capability so we can shrink the size of the chips.
Okay, very interesting, thank you. I would like to make a question for all of you, because coming back to this importance of working together, what do you think are the things that the ecosystem can do together to make Metaverse a reality? How do you think we should work together, all pieces, to make this a reality?
Who do you want to go first?
You can.
Okay, so I will address a specific challenge, and it's not related to Qualcomm. I think the main challenge today, and coming back to AR, because I think VR, MR, we are in a better shape today, right? I think the main challenge is on AR, and that's why I'm really focusing my attention into it. So when you look at AR, I think the main challenge we have is optics and industrial design. So if we're able to reduce the chips, so it will solve part of the equation, but we need to help the industry, the OEMs, and the designers to solve how we fix this image projection. So the optics are improving, but we still have a way to go on this, and on the industrial design. I think those are the main challenges we have today, because the technology, we know how to fix it, and we have the pieces that needs to be done. But on the glasses side, we need to work as an industry in how we're gonna bring better optics, lighter, thinner, and faster, and in an industrial shape that is better to the day-to-day type of use cases.
Okay. What do you think, Gloria?
Well, I think that Metaverse is an industry topic. And what we need is to cooperate everybody together. So this is not one thing for one sector. So we really need to work together. We need to support a lot the standards, because what we need to secure is that interoperability is there. And it's interoperability between devices and applications as well. So if we can interconnect as well Metaverse, that will be much more useful in the future. So cooperation with the standards, I think that's a key topic. And I think as well the quality and the user experience. So we need to secure good quality of experience. Otherwise, the users, we will be tired of trying and trying. And I would say the last point is price point. So I think that we need to make Metaverse affordable.
Yeah. And what do you think, Francois?
I think at the infrastructure layer, what we need to do as part of the ecosystem is provide the required infrastructure to guarantee the quality of experience for the user. It starts at the wireless. For example, we're deploying 5G today, but we're probably going to need network slicing. We're also going to need awareness of the application. For example, if a user is using an application that requires a larger slice of traffic, because traffic demand is higher, then the 5G infrastructure will need to be application aware so that they can adjust the size of the slice according to the need that the customer has. So far today, in all the infrastructure, we're agnostic to all of this. All applications are the same. We just take the traffic from here to there. So there's a lot of work that's required there to provide application awareness to the infrastructure devices. Now, if you walk back into the optical network, the optical infrastructure is more of a challenge of raw capacity and minimum latency. The optical infrastructure is the pipe, if you like, that carries all that traffic. Bandwidth keeps increasing, and we're limited by certain rules of physics. We only have so many bands. I mean, so far today, we've been using mostly the C band. We need to increase by adding other bands in order to increase the number of channels and being able to carry more and more traffic. And the last point is probably try to evolve the network into a pure optical network with optical switching capability, so that by reducing the amount of electrical to optical transitions, you can actually make a network that's more power efficient, and also that is more optimized for very low latency type of applications.
Marta, can I do another last comment on my side on what we need to do together? I think one thing we can do as an industry is facilitating the life of the developers for this type of application. So as we have more diverse type of devices out there, different networks and different providers, and this ecosystem that is about to be consolidated, we need to make the life of the developers easier. So just to give an example, we took a step and we launched the Snapdragon Spaces, which is an SDK platform that basically is put in the hand of the developers perception technologies. So they don't need to be worried on how they are going to do hand tracking or how they do virtual positioning or object coordination and so on and so forth. There are many type of perceptions that we call it perception technology that we are putting in the hands of the developers so they can develop applications and experiences in an easy manner. So if we expand that as an industry challenge, I think as an industry we can collaborate to make their lives easier, because if their lives are easier, the creativity is limitless, so it's going to speed up the ecosystem to arrive.
That's a very, very good point. I truly believe that developers are going to be key, because we are building a skeleton, very good one, very good shape, but if we don't have the blood inside, then it makes nothing, no, for customers in the end. So I totally agree with that. We sometimes, from the networks and the technology side, disconnect a little bit with the developers, and that's important. So just to sum up, I think it's clear this is an industry challenge, an industry topic, but we'll have a lot of potential in all the sides of the chain. If we work together, we can make this a reality.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much, all of you, for the panel, and that's all.
Okay,
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Marta.
Thank you, Marta.
Thank you.
Yes, guys. Thanks, Marta. All right, so that was Metaverse 360 Take 2. Let's go with Take 3. We are going to talk about operator perspectives. Obviously, we all know that Metaverse and delivering the quality of experience and all the improvements that the Metaverse is going to require from the network itself, it's going to put a lot of pressure on the operators. We want to hear from them what they have to say about the Metaverse, what they are looking for, what their perception is, what they want to build around the Metaverse. For that, I want to welcome on stage Cayetano Carbajo, Director of Core Transport and Services Platforms at Telefónica, and Erika Silverstone, Director of Wireless Strategy at Comcast. Cayetano, Erika, welcome.
Thank you.
Good morning. As you heard, I'm Cayetano Carbajo. I'm from Telefónica. I've been 27 years in the company and doing many different things. Now I'm responsible of core and transport. Erika, if you don't mind, I will explain what are we doing for having the network ready for the metaverse.
That'd be great.
Good. Well, I think it's too early to know exactly all that we have to do for having network ready for metaverse. But certainly metaverse will pose some challenges in terms of throughput and latency, for instance, and many other functionality. So in Telefónica, not only for the metaverse, but for all the services, we are preparing our access. We have already a good shape in fiber, in fixed access. You know that Telefónica, we are leader in fiber penetration. We have more than 60 million home pass in our market. We have more than 20 million subscribers connected to fiber. So I think if we continue that way, we will be prepared even for high throughput and high requirement from metaverse. In access, like the whole market, we are deploying 5G. We are doing a radio deployment progressively regarding and looking at the market demands. And we are ready for providing a standalone service as soon as market requires. But we are preparing more things in our network. We are preparing the transport. We have to achieve huge capacity and transfer capacity. We need to do a lot about automation, for instance. We are modifying our operational model. We think that the network will be more complex, and we have to simplify the way we are working. We have to increase the level of automation. And technology is providing us very good means for doing great things in automation of the network. And also, we are increasing the intelligence of the network for allowing new services and new use cases. We are working in slicing. We are working in network APIs, network as a service. And we want to be ready for exploring at maximum the capabilities that this network new accesses will bring to us, especially 5G. With this, we will not be only preparing the network for the metaverse, but for many other usages. And I think the fact that we have to have dedicated services for very demanding services, dedicated network performance for very demanding services is key. We are working on that. But Erika, what about in your case?
Yeah, Erica Sievertson, I'm an executive director at Comcast Cable as a part of the greater Comcast NBCU and Sky family. When we actually think about ourselves as a provider, we're primarily a connectivity company. It's something that people generally forget. We've grown from a company that was started in Tupelo, Mississippi, the hometown of Elvis, in the 1960s with 1,200 subscribers, to a company that passes 60 million households in the United States. And when we actually think about the impact that we have 30 million broadband subscribers across 40 different states, United States, on urban, suburban, and rural topologies. And so when you think about the scale of our network, it is significant and massive in terms of the scope. And so as we've grown our network, we've made organic investments where we've invested in fiber, we invest in access technologies, we've invested in in-home Wi-Fi, public Wi-Fi, wireless, cellular wireless. And we've also made acquisitions. Most notably, we acquired Adelphia and AT&T broadband, and then lots of smaller networks. And in order for us to actually run our network, we've standardized across all of those operations. And so we've built this platform on which we're actually able to innovate and build additional capacity at a pretty rapid pace. And using that hybrid fiber coaxial architecture, it's allowed us to both bridge all of those topologies and then those legacy technologies. And when we think about all the other capabilities, which you mentioned, automation and some of the other things, when the COVID-19 pandemic hit, we were able to rapidly adjust and completely absorb that additional demand. We're also working on rolling out multi-gig internet speeds currently. We're planning on having that available in 34 cities and towns by the end of this year. And so we're moving rapidly forward, and when we think about metaverse readiness, this is pretty critical for us. And as I mentioned, we're a connectivity company, but what we actually believe for our customers, we should be able to provide connectivity to anyone, anywhere they are, using any technology. So we also have an MVNO business. We've grown that business in the last 5 years from a couple thousand subscribers to more than 4 million. In the first 2 quarters of this year, we added 300,000 net adds in the United States. And so if you put all of the cable MVNOs together, we have about 9 million subscribers. We'd be the 4th largest mobile provider in the United States if we operated as one company. But it's not just enough to rent a network. We've got a great relationship with Verizon, but we're thinking about the intersection between Wi-Fi. We've got 20 million Wi-Fi hotspots in the United States. We've also purchased low and mid-band spectrum. And as we actually think about 5G and our future, we've made it very clear that we don't plan on building a national wireless network by any means, but we will deploy wireless assets where and when it makes sense in high traffic dense areas. Our spectrum covers about 80% of our footprint, about 50% of the US population. And then you mentioned metaverse readiness, and we're spending a lot of time thinking about this. And we think about it in terms of S-curves. And what are the different use cases? If you go back historically, there's a number of points in time where people change their behaviors. Video, you think about the first iPhone launch, all of the other things that impacted networks. And so we're being very proactive in the space and understanding these S-curves. But we don't know what this future is going to look like. And so we have to get that input from application developers, companies like Meta, other companies doing all of these immersive experiences. And we're starting to see a lot of these, especially with the VR headsets released this and next year. And additionally, I mentioned that we're part of the Comcast NBCU Sky family. We're starting to experiment within our content businesses. We recently announced a Meta NBCU partnership to take the Office TV show intellectual property and turn that into virtual reality experiences. We have an augmented reality ride at our Universal Studio park in Japan that we're planning on bringing to Orlando. And, if you're a soccer fan, with Sky, they're planning on launching Premier League VR experiences in November. So we are experimenting, and there's lots of opportunity to learn from other aspects of our business. And one of the other things is people kind of forget about cable, and we use a technology called DOCSIS. But as we think about DOCSIS, we're really pushing the frontier on how we're innovating the technology, investing, and improving the protocol. And in fact, actually last month, we did the world's first successful test of full duplex DOCSIS 4.0, which for a lot of people is probably not that interesting. But it represents essentially the 5th generation of DOCSIS. And what we were able to do with our coaxial plant and 6 amplifiers, which means we have the ability to upgrade our performance to multi-gig symmetrical speeds. We're planning on being able to do that across our footprint by 2025. We'll start to see that in the back half of 2023. And so we think about metaverse readiness as well, all the broadband, all the investment we're doing, as well as different service level requirements that are going to be needed. We think about ultra reliability, we think about latency, we're thinking about all of these things, and cable's an important piece of it. There are about 70 million cable homes in the United States, about 220 globally. 20 million globally. And then if you think about all the pay TV people that are still on cable connections that could potentially be using that for a broadband connection. And so we're very excited to be here and be part of this. And my group specifically focuses on partnerships, incubation, new growth initiatives, and we want to hear from the ecosystem and understand what we should be preparing for.
Certainly, ecosystem is relevant. It is amazing seeing the progress in DOCSIS and the progress in your partnerships. Specifically for home connectivity and for network deployment, what are your functionality you plan to have, or what are your plans there?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. When we think about the overall capabilities that we need to have, it's end-to-end, right? The network doesn't just stop when you reach the premises. So we do a lot of investment in Wi-Fi. We are thinking about network capabilities. One of the things that we've made pretty significant investments in doing is actually virtualizing a lot of our network functions. We are one of the leading innovators, along with a number of other cable companies, in distributed access edge, and then working on virtual CMTS, which is the cable modem termination system in our routing. And we're really advanced in terms of virtualization and how we're thinking about it. So in terms of your question on in-home, we think of it as an extension of the network. Cayetano, you mentioned a bunch of the different types of networks in fiber and 5G. Would you mind just telling the audience a little bit more about what you think the roles are of those different networks when we think about the metaverse and readiness?
Well, I think the first place where metaverse will start to be used is home. I think virtual reality will start at home. I don't see, with the current state of the art, people going out there with the glasses yet. And also at home, with our fiber deployment, we have the requirement of latency and throughput. So I guess we will be prepared at home first. At home, basically, the customer are not a customer of fiber. Really, they are a customer of Wi-Fi. So this is the interface they are using more. Majority of our customers are connected to the broadband through Wi-Fi. So we have been working a lot in improving our Wi-Fi connectivity at home. We have our own development of the software of the CPE. And we can do things like prioritizing certain traffic in customer premises. And I think this is quite relevant. Regarding the other network, I mean, regarding mobile network, 5G is giving us a great opportunity. I mean, we will certainly improve in connectivity, we will improve in throughput, we will improve in latency. We have to complement that with several things. For instance, if we want this latency to be achieved by all applications, we need to have edge computing. I mean, we have to have the application near to the customer, and we are working on that. And also, 5G is giving us a lot of instrument. It will be very easy to expose functionality of the network. We will have network slicing that we can dedicate resources to a specific usage. So we are trialing and testing that for whatever 5G standalone will be massive. We will be able to use this kind of functionality to have the metaverse experience, the best possible experience. Okay. In your case, I said that we are paying a lot of attention to Wi-Fi at home. Is this your case as well at home, or how do you do that?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned this a bit earlier, and the explosion of data, right? So when we are, thinking about these use cases, today there's really not a lot that completely clogs a network, but if you actually took, say, 2 hours of what an average one of our customers spends on video per day, and you converted that to a metaverse experience with background rendering, you changed the resolution, you changed the refresh rate, you could imagine that 14 times the data consumption in a month is not actually abnormal. And so when we think about in-home Wi-Fi, that is actually a big component of the network, and making sure that those pipes, that capacity is there for those use cases, and they can have that great experience in the in-home Wi-Fi, but it also goes back to the network. So we think of it as an end-to-end experience, and that relationship between the home gateway and our virtual CMTSs, and optimizing that.
Okay, this is interesting. This is great.
I want to go back to something that you said. You were talking about automation. You're talking about all the capabilities and everything together. Could you talk a little bit more about that and how you guys think that vision is going to shape your readiness for the metaverse?
Well, I think the technological evolution is giving us both a need and an opportunity. The need is because network will be more and more complex, and it will be impossible to operate them without evolving our processes and our tools. Automation has to be much higher. The automation level has to be much higher than the one we have today. For this, we need for sure to use new technology, and fortunately we have technology that are coming to help us there. I mean, we have artificial intelligence, we have data that is delivered by the network node that are much more available than before, thanks, among other things, to disaggregation. And we have many interfaces that are becoming standardized. I mean, we are working a lot, for instance, in transport network for SDN, and then the OpenConfig interfaces, for putting one example, is delivering us many more things than before. So you can do that in an easier way because all the interfaces are standardized. So technologies there will help us, but also we need to change our processes. We need to change our culture. Even we have a skill gap, meaning if we want to change all our operational model and we need people knowing about artificial intelligence, for instance. Maybe we have not all the people in operation dealing with these new skills, and we need to renovate these skills. So in general, we have a broad project for transforming our operational model that it is needed, even if Metaverse is not coming just with the technical evolution of our network, this will be needed. Think about the complexity of a mobile network. You will have multiple slices, and you will have SLA for each of the slices. It will be very difficult to monitor and restore that when an SLA is not fulfilled. Fortunately, again, technology is giving us means for monitoring that and helping that. I mean, network DAF will be a great opportunity for having the not only the experience SLA, but also the predicted SLA to be monitored and then reacting on time. I think this is key.
And one follow-up question for you on that. If you're thinking about all of those capabilities and delivering a different experience to application developers and folks building, the metaverse or immersive experiences, how do you think network operators and application developers can work together? What's the type of capability that would be useful?
This is a very good question. Our thinking is that there will be services that will require a very demanding performance from the network in terms of throughput or latency or any other. But maybe not all the services will require that. So in my opinion, the best effort network is not helping us to provide metaverse service anymore. So we need to prioritize certain services, give to this connection the right performance in terms of latency and throughput. I cannot imagine providing 1 meg or 1 gig 1 millisecond latency to all our customers at the same time. We will have no spectrum in mobile technology, for instance, for doing that. But certainly, I can prioritize certain traffic for that customer that requires that. We can do that. So slicing will help us there, and the cooperation with application will be done, in my opinion, by network as a service. I mean, network APIs is the right means for negotiating with the application what is the set of parameters and performance that the application needs from the network. There are many examples. For instance, when building the edge, for the application will be very difficult to decide in which edge location application has to be on board. Has to be a dialogue between the network and the application. What is the requirement you have in terms of latency? What is the nearest edge computing site that has the requirement that is needed for the application, and then onboard dynamically the application and start the implementation. If you have not APIs and if you have not this direct relation with the API, it will be very difficult. On top of that, I think this is giving an opportunity of monetization. I mean, technically, I think we need in any case, but on top of that, the monetization of the network asset, it is clear. And in our case, especially in Europe, but you have to fulfill as well, we have to fulfill net neutrality. So, but we are sure that even fulfilling net neutrality, we can do something better than best effort for everybody.
And that's interesting. We would agree with providing the optimal experience and thinking about how you do everything dynamically. So yeah, that's really interesting.
Yes, you have to do that dynamically. In your opinion, what is the partnership that we operator has to do for having the right metaverse experience for our customer?
So I mentioned that we're experimenting with our content businesses, a number of things that we're doing across the company, and we have the opportunity to learn from our peers. But for us to try and decide, what we think the metaverse is going to be or what the immersive use cases are, that just doesn't work. Our primary business is building a network, operating that business, executing at scale, and providing resiliency and redundancy to make sure that all of our customers have superior uptime. So what we've done is we've endeavored on an effort to work with partners to understand what their roadmaps are and understand what they're building out in the ecosystem. And working with them to kind of, if people think about networks, sometimes they're a bit of a black box, if you will, to application developers. And so they don't necessarily know, in terms of cable, what's a head end, what's a distributed footprint, what does that mean, what is a node, what's the split, what is coax, so all of these components, we can dissect and explain how that might impact the application's intended experience. And so when we think about partnerships, what we really want to hear from the ecosystem is what folks are building and what they need from a network requirement and a profile. And you mentioned some of the service levels, you mentioned APIs, like what are the types of things that would be required for these experiences to work as intended? And so my group, specifically within Comcast and strategic development, we spend a lot of time out in the ecosystem, which is partially why I'm here, and I'm excited to be in Madrid. And that's how we think about partnerships.
I think you mentioned ecosystem. Ecosystem is really relevant. In our side, I think we have to work a lot with use cases. We have to work a lot with developers. We have to provide them with network parameters and network capabilities that are useful for them, but in a simpler way. As you said, for them to understand all the internal function of the network will be tough. So the more we simplify for the developer to use one of our API, the better, and the more useful will be for them.
I couldn't agree more, because it's a permutationally complex problem that no party can solve on their own.
Okay.
And you mentioned a bit of like in-home Wi-Fi and the in-home experience. When you think about your customers and how that extends to the metaverse, what are the types of things that you think will improve, I guess, your end users' journey into each of those applications?
For the specific case of home, for instance, prioritizing the flows inside the home will be useful. Maybe all of us, we have experienced that you have all the members of your family doing streaming or gaming or whatever, and suddenly you have a video conference that is starting to not going well just because the Wi-Fi network is saturated. Well, one easy example is prioritize the flow that is more important for you, for the customer, and then having the right experience for that flow. We can do that, and we are working for offering this capability, for instance, for applications.
That's great, and it's fun that we're representing a couple different perspectives, you with European perspective and myself with North America, and I think that there's even a lot of lessons we can learn from each other as network operators.
Absolutely. We are operators with different environment, but at the end we have similar technology. Maybe you have more cable than we have. We have a wide focus in fiber, also with some cable asset, but certainly we can learn from each other for sure.
Yeah, there's a lot more alignment than I think people realize, and it's been fun getting to know you over the last couple days and nerding out a little bit about networks.
Yes, it's true. Any conclusion from your side?
Yeah, I think the real big thing is thinking about how we're working in the ecosystem. I mean, I said this a little bit before, but figuring out how we can all work together and find the opportunities where we can unlock some of these immersive experiences together. Like, no party can go and do this themselves. I think the one thing is we want to make sure that cable's at the table. A lot of folks forget about cable, but there is quite a bit of if you think about the U.S. households, it's roughly 80% of U.S. households are covered by a cable provider. So we could have a very sizable impact on our immersive future. What about yourself? What did you learn?
I mean, certainly we have to continue working in providing great connectivity. Access is key, but it's not only that. We have to work in all the intelligence of the network. I think delivering the right service to the right requirement, it is key. Best effort network will maybe not be great for all the services, and we have to be specialized in delivering the right performance to the service that is requiring that. We are working on this.
That's no small task.
This has been my pleasure to talk to you. So thank you very much. Thank you to the audience, and I will give the word to Diego. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cayetano, Erika. That was great. That takes us to lunchtime. Remember that we have exhibits and food on third floor. Visit them. They are waiting. Thanks again to our sponsors. Without them, we couldn't be making this possible. Also, make sure you guys use the Fyuz 2022 when you're taking photos about of the food and all that stuff upstairs. And remember to go to the breakout sessions. If you guys focus too much on the food, next year we'll bring only British food. So make sure you get to the breakouts as well. See you at 2:15, please, so we can start at 2:30 the afternoon session. Thank you.